Joey, you texted me a link the other day, as you often do. You send me fantastic links about different things. And this was one of those articles that I read. I read every single word, and I understood about a third of them. So help me understand. This article is on Pharmacy Times. It says, study finds rapid dietary effects on brain insulin and obesity risk. First of all, I didn't know the brain had insulin. I thought that was only in muscles. I guess
peripheral. Yeah. Basically we always think of insulin, and it's true. Receptors as being everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah. So the link to brain insulin and insulin sensitivity in the brain is definitely, I don't know how new it is, but it's definitely the new angle, not just for blood sugar regulation related to diabetes, but also just for obesity and weight management itself.
Okay. Yeah. Because theoretically, my understanding is that the body gets signaled, hey, there's blood sugar, you should absorb it. And then the muscles and other tissues, I guess, absorb the sugar out of the blood, the glucose out of the blood, and use it for energy and various other things.
Correct.
And so I guess that makes sense that it would be in the brain as well.
So I guess it's kind of two-part. So insulin is the is the result of that signal.
Right.
Okay. So insulin takes the glucose from the bloodstream and allows the cells to utilize it. That's what gets glucose into cells. So that occurs in the brain because the brain needs glucose.
That makes sense.
But what's interesting is that that's not all that's going on there. We'll get into it a little more, but there has to do with the overall management of food satiety, et cetera, blood sugar regulation that occurs from the signals from the brain, not just from the direct action of glucose pulling, insulin pulling glucose out of your bloodstream into your cells.
Why do I feel like this is somehow related to the GLP-1s and all that conversation?
And to some extent, yeah. This is where it starts to kind of pile on and. Yeah, so we kind of went over what insulin is. Insulin sensitivity is the body's ability to effectively use the hormone insulin.
That's a key word.
Yes, the effectively, yes. So when it's sensitive, that's what you want. That means that less insulin is needed to get your glucose level down to pull it out of the bloodstream. When your body becomes resistant to insulin, just like it sounds, it's going to require more. It's going to require more to help pull that into the muscles and get it out of the bloodstream. So it's critical for maintaining healthy blood sugar levels, preventing type 2 diabetes. Okay. When you do get insulin resistant, you're at a higher risk for high blood sugar. In short term, type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome. In the long term, cardiovascular disease. And
this is it's a downward spiral, correct?
Exactly.
Like when you become insulin resistant, it typically just gets worse and worse.
Yes. So insulin resistance can be caused by various factors: obesity, physical inactivity, unhealthy diet, stress, even certain medications and genetics. So the medications and genetics, a little more difficult, a little more isolated, but the obesity component and kind of the chicken or egg aspect there that develops, and we'll go into that a little bit. Physical inactivity, often whenever you're gaining weight, you're becoming less healthy, you're stressed, you're not eating well, you're less likely to work out. That whole chicken, egg, pull, push.
Like they all go together.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. All right.
Yeah. So the brain is an insulin sensitive organ, like we mentioned, just like all the peripheral parts of your body that are. Okay. So, but it also plays a vital role in not just brain functioning, but also your metabolism. Okay. Your cognitive processes. And the key thing here that I found really interesting is the ability for your body to regulate glucose metabolism, send those signals, maintain your energy levels. So it's not just what it's doing for the brain itself as the organ who needs glucose, but it's the signals and the interplay with the rest of your body.
Oh, wow. That makes sense that the brain is the source of that signal. Okay.
Yes. So insulin resistance in the brain, just like in the rest of the body, it's when the brain and the cells and the receptors fail to respond as effectively as normally to insulin. What also that can lead to, though, is cognitive decline, age-related memory impairment, potentially even neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. So it's not just the weight gain, it's the impact of insulin resistance in the brain because of what your brain needs. So no, we're going in two different directions. It's how does insulin resistance in the brain impact the brain itself and what the brain does related to cognitive decline, memory impairment, neurodegenerative diseases, but then also how does it impact the rest of your body, weight gain, type 2 diabetes, because of the signals that are being sent improperly.
Man, okay.
So this is not meant to be a deep dive on that, because it's complicated and we've touched on it before. But what this study looked at directly is short-term. I mean, they didn't use the word binges. I've used it in here a few times, but short-term bouts or binges of excessive caloric intake. So they have two groups, healthy average weight individuals. Okay. Group one, eat your normal diet, but every day for 5 days, you're going to eat 1,500 junk calories, highly processed, high calorie, high sugar for 5 days. So they'll measure you. They use MRI to actually measure in the brain, and also liver fat, which we'll get to. But they baseline after 5 days of this binge, and then also, which is really interesting, 7 days after you've resumed normal eating.
Okay, so for 5 days, you're eating 1,500 extra calories of junk food.
Yeah, it's basically was set up. This is not a diet change. It's eat like normal, but
you went on vacation.
Once a day, you're going to come in and you're going to hammer some Snickers, and yes.
Okay.
So, but then again, they're gonna look at you again after 7 days.
7 days after you stop doing that.
After you resume normal eating.
Got it. Okay.
Group 2, no changes. You're just going to be evaluated at those same
control
benchmark dates. Yes, control group. Thank you. So they're using MRI to assess brain insulin sensitivity and also liver fat content.
Okay.
So what they found, and it's a small study, but it's still very interesting in terms of what, as we're trying to piece together all that's going on here. After the 5-day eating binge, so just 5 days, they found significant reduced insulin sensitivity or increased insulin resistance.
In 5 days.
In 5 days. And it was to levels seen in obese patients. So again, obese patients typically have had this process going on for an extended period of time, and their levels of insulin sensitivity are similar to 5-day eating binge.
So you're saying that for these people, if somebody engages in a binge like this, that if the effects on the brain are going to be similar to what somebody experiences, whether they binged or not, of being obese.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, because of the process.
Which is a very long process.
Yes, because of the process that has led to them being insulin resistant goes hand in hand with being obese. And
wow.
Yes. Yeah. So after 5 days, again, insulin sensitivity reduced to levels seen in obese patients. But what was even more interesting, or just as interesting, they remember after a week, they were going to reevaluate you again. So back to normal eating, they had not returned to their baseline levels yet after a week of normal eating.
Oh man. So it's okay.
So the liver fat, interestingly, they didn't compare it to obese levels or anything. They just saw it. It went up. Liver fat increased after 5 days. After the week, went down.
So the liver repaired itself.
It repaired, adapted well. The insulin resistance in the brain did not.
Oh man, that has profound implications for what it means to radically alter your diet, even for a short period of time.
Yes. Yes, not just for your brain functioning, but for the overall process of maintaining the blood sugar, of gaining weight.
Yeah.
The study authors concluded that this rapid, significant disruption of brain insulin sensitivity after 5 days may even be the initial cause of obesity and type 2 diabetes, even well before any weight gain is noticed. What I liked about the study, again, it's small and more study needs done. But the MRI evaluation adds some hard data to this. Okay, that's for sure. And I also like, again, linking and trying to better understand the role that brain insulin plays, not just in the functioning of the brain related to cognitive issues, but also in the regulation of appetite, feeding behavior, energy balance that we do kind of get into when we look at the GLP-1s.
Yeah.
So I think... and again, what would happen if they tested them a week later? It didn't continue to go on. So this is not saying that At day 8, it was normal. We don't know. That's all they tested. 5 days, 7 days, no more. So we don't know kind of how long. That would be interesting to know.
At some point, it returns.
Absolutely. And yes, 1,500 is significant.
It's a lot.
Yes. So especially because it's just added to normal diet. I don't know, what is that? 5, 6 Snickers bars, it's significant. But when you look at, even just being honest with myself, sometimes the way that, I don't go on these 5-day binges, but there's periods maybe we're not eating as good.
Yep.
And so when you look at just how the process works, it may not necessarily take, it's not the magic number of 5 days and 15. What if it's 2 days a week?
Yeah.
I tend to sometimes not eat real good on the weekends.
Yep.
But so you have that intermittent consistency though of what could potentially be affecting insulin resistance in the brain.
When it makes sense that if it's affecting your brain that way for that long, that a little bit of misbehavior continued just a little bit will have downstream effects that it makes it harder to get back on track, to refocus and recenter and do things the way that you should be doing it.
Exactly. Well said. Yes. Yeah, and then back to it again, I think, again, maybe because it's personal, but kind of the weekend kind of, work hard, play hard.
Yep.
Sometimes eating on the weekends, letting things go. It doesn't mean that you can never do those things. There's no magic number about what caused it or one day. It's not about that. But if it's consistently 2 times a week, 8 times a month, and you're eating maybe an extra 500,000 calories every time, maybe it's not going to be 5 days where you notice it, of course, but over time, it shows that potentially there is some accumulation effect in the brain that's not only going to affect your peripheral cells, not only going to affect your brain functioning, but affect the way that your brain helps to manage those things and manage your weight.
And that's really the part that I think is most interesting, is that you're talking about, for these folks, it becomes harder your brain feels less satiety from what should be a normal meal than it did previously.
Yes.
Which then drives the bad behavior of going to seek even more calories.
Yes. And it goes back to some of the discussions we've had. Obesity is a disease, but kind of what caused it, so to say.
Right.
Yes, there's genetic, and yes, there's certainly those things come into play significantly. But their ultimate conclusion was to kind of say, hey, this could be kind of how that process starts. And then, like you're saying, once it has started, it's a vicious cycle. It's continuing to perpetuate that.
Man, that is horrifying and wonderful. I'm glad we're discovering these things.
I hope they do I hope they do another study like this, a little with more patients, and maybe test after 2 weeks, a month, and just see what occurs. And yes, it's really tough to control for the diet. Who knows? Maybe these people in that 7-day window where they resumed normal eating, they didn't go and get their 5 Snicker bars on the house, but maybe even in that short period of time, it did spark some things.
Maybe it was 2.
Maybe they eat a little worse. Exactly. But that's part of the point,
right?
Is that whenever you do expose yourself to those things and you do eat that way, you do expose your brain to it, what it does to you the rest of the time in terms of what you want, what you crave.
Well, I was going to go get some ice cream when I left here, but I guess I'm going to eat the rest of the celery that I have in the fridge. Oh, goodness. Thank you, Joey. Anything else on that before we move on? All right. That's quite enough out of you, I think. Thank you.